Imagine freight trains running all night, suffocating under a ticking clock, because by 2028, Sydney will officially run out of space to bury its trash. Total infrastructure collapse. But right now, inside the luxury basements of New South Wales, an invisible sci-fi army has just been deployed to fight back. We are talking about 15 million hyper-intelligent, internet-connected biological processors crunching through industrial waste at twice their own body weight every single day. Forget traditional recycling. This is a high-tech war for urban survival. Let's see how these little creatures are secretly saving the country. Let's dive in. When you think of a hyper-developed global city like Sydney, you probably picture pristine skyscrapers, high-end harbor districts, and seamless infrastructure. You definitely don't picture an island of trash waiting to suffocate itself. But here is the reality check most people completely miss. The actual physical gears keeping this massive urban machine running are terrifyingly fragile. Right now, a population of over 5.3 million people and businesses is generating a non-stop mountain of solid waste every single hour. In fact, Sydney alone produces more than 5,000 tons of municipal waste every single day. And how does a modern metropolis solve this? By hiding it. The city packs this waste down, compresses it, and shoves it onto heavy freight trains to be hauled hundreds of kilometers away to distant regional landfills like the Woodlawn facility. It's a classic out-of-sight, out-of-mind strategy. Except, a system that relies entirely on an endless chain of cargo trains running over vast steel tracks is a logistical nightmare waiting to happen. The moment a heavy storm hits, or flash floods wash out a section of the rural rail line, the dominoes fall. The train service stops, the tracks wear down, but the trash, it never stops piling up. It keeps coming, regardless of the weather, turning urban transit hubs into ticking backlogs of rot. And this isn't a distant, hypothetical problem for the next generation. Government experts are sounding the alarm that time has already run out. By 2028, Sydney is projected to completely lose its capacity to bury waste within its own limits, as existing landfills reach 100% capacity. There is no more room to dig. If the system snaps, you aren't just looking at an inconvenient delay. You are looking at a literal shutdown of urban logistics. It ruins the clean, high-tech illusion we built for ourselves, proving that even the wealthiest cities are just one broken rail link away from being buried under their own consumption. But why can't we just keep packing those freight trains and dumping everything into those distant valleys forever? What's the actual harm in letting organic waste sit out there? Well, the invisible problem is that as food scraps decompose in the suffocating, oxygen-free layers of a massive landfill, they trigger a heavy chemical backlash. They release methane gas, and they do it so actively that landfill methane alone accounts for about 8% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. You already know our planet has more than enough issues with gases, even without me pointing it out. But it gets worse when you look at how we've been trying to fix it. The go-to-green solution for decades has been traditional composting. It sounds nice on paper, right? Back to nature, organic, eco-friendly. Except, the math completely breaks down under modern pressure. A standard open-air compost pile takes up to 16 weeks to fully break down a single batch of organic matter. 16 weeks. That is a massive lag time. While nature is taking its sweet time over 4 long months, the city is pumping out fresh food waste by the hour. It's like trying to drain a flooded room with a single plastic straw while the ceiling is collapsed and pouring down rain. When you calculate the economic math of a modern metropolis, the sheer density of solid waste coming out of corporate high-rises, crowded food courts, and commercial kitchens proves that old biological methods are totally useless. They simply do not have the speed. And more importantly, they don't have the space. Urban real estate is far too expensive, and no city can afford to dedicate square kilometers of prime land just to let mountains of old pizza and coffee grounds rot slowly in the sun. The old green playbook is officially obsolete because it cannot ingest the non-stop flow of metropolitan waste. So, how do you compress a 16-week natural process into just a few days without using a single square meter of new land? That is the exact logistical puzzle that forced engineers to look for an entirely new kind of workforce. So instead of building a massive central megastructure and hauling hundreds of tons of waste across vulnerable rail networks, what if you just intercept the problem exactly where it is born? Right at the source, before it even has a chance to touch a freight train. To do that, engineers came up with a wild, decentralized biological concept: They decided to plant standard cargo shipping containers right in the luxury basement levels of major commercial hubs. We are talking about the underground spaces of the Woolworths supermarket chain and the massive Hyatt Regency Hotel near Darling Harbour, a premier tourist district in Sydney with exactly 878 rooms. Now, try to visualize this radical contrast. Upstairs, you have wealthy travelers checking into five-star suites and shoppers browsing high-end retail clothing or hanging out at the busy food court. But right beneath their feet, inside those sleek metallic containers, is a dark, churning web of 15 million black soldier fly larvae. It is a massive automated biomachinery operating right under the pavement. And these little creatures aren't just sitting there. They are running on a highly precise mechanical protocol. Whenever waste leaves the kitchens or retail floors, whether it is old lettuce, unwanted scraps, stale baked goods, or even tons of used coffee grounds from a local McDonald's, it doesn't go into a dumpster. It gets fed directly into a specialized machine called a maggot robot. This machine automatically shreds and grinds the incoming waste, separating plastic packaging from the organic material and turns it into a smooth, liquid paste. Then, a computerized system takes over. It treats these millions of larvae like industrial components, distributing the paste across the feeding area with absolute mathematical accuracy based on their exact daily metabolic needs. The entire environment is fully digitized. The container is hooked up directly to the internet, allowing remote operators to monitor the internal temperature, moisture levels, and feeding schedules without a single human ever needing to step inside the basement with a shovel. You don't have to keep an eye on every single insect because the automated matrix handles the logistics for all 15 million of them. It completely changes your perspective on what waste management looks like, transforming a filthy public sanitation hazard into a clean, streamlined piece of biotechnology with its own internet protocol address. You are looking at a living, breathing server farm, except instead of processing digital data, this army is busy processing our daily overconsumption. Now, when you see how well this container system works, your very first instinct is probably to ask a simple question. Why go through all the trouble and expense of building high-tech metal boxes and complex software interfaces? If these bugs are so incredibly good at devouring our leftovers, why not just truck millions of them out to the massive open-air regional dumps, spread them over the hills of garbage, and let them get to work for free? It sounds like a total no-brainer, right? Well, that is exactly where a lot of well-meaning, simplistic eco-ideas crash straight into a wall of brutal biological reality. If you actually tried to scatter these creatures across an open wasteland, your entire operation would drop to a net efficiency of exactly 0%. It is an economically pointless endeavor. And the reason comes down to a very strict piece of evolutionary design. The black soldier fly is fundamentally a subtropical species. They evolved to thrive only within a very narrow, warm climate envelope. Out in the open air of Australia, the weather is their worst enemy. The moment winter hits and the temperature drops below 20 degrees Celsius, the larvae experience a total system shutdown. They refuse to eat, their metabolism stops, and they go completely dormant. On the flip side, during a scorching summer, if the direct sun pushes the garbage past 45 degrees Celsius, the environment turns into a literal oven. The larvae can't burrow away fast enough, and they end up roasted alive right in the pile. But let's say the weather stays perfectly mild for a few days. You still have a massive ecological problem. You have just laid out an absolute all-you-can-eat buffet for every local wild animal. Millions of fat, juicy, exposed larvae sitting on top of a mound of trash are a primary target. Flocks of birds, rodents, and wild pests would swoop in and devour your entire workforce before they could even finish a single slice of old bread. It completely destroys the biological density you need to make an actual dent in the waste. We actually saw this play out in a major international case study over in Indonesia. For years, people there tried managing organic waste by introducing larvae directly into standard open-air dump sites. The results were a complete disaster. It wasn't just the climate or the local birds that wiped them out. It was the structural nature of the trash itself. In a typical open dump, organic scraps are mixed up with massive quantities of discarded plastic packaging, toxic household chemicals, and sharp aluminum cans. The larvae got trapped in plastic pockets, starved, or poisoned. They simply cannot survive unless the organic waste has already been filtered through a flawless, mechanical sorting process right at the source. And that is the exact reason why that expensive, over-engineered internet cage in the basement is non-negotiable. The robot isn't a luxury. It is a life support system. It isolates the bugs from predators, screens out the deadly microplastics, and maintains a flawless, steady climate 24 hours a day. It proves that you cannot just copy and paste a natural mechanism into a human mess without using severe mechanical engineering to protect it. But don't assume Australia is the only country pulling off these strange biological setups. We are actually living in the middle of a massive, hidden global race where different nations are weaponizing completely different species of flies to hack our industrial systems. This isn't just about managing a dumpster anymore. It is about completely restructuring the food chain. For instance, right in the agricultural heartland of Queensland, farmers have been fighting a quiet, losing war against the Queensland fruit fly. This single pest completely destroys crops, costing the domestic horticultural industry over $300 million every single year. But look at how they are fighting back now that chemical pesticides are heavily banned. At the National Sterile Insect Centre in Port Augusta, South Australia, scientists are breeding millions of these identical fruit flies and blasting them with targeted X-rays. This process leaves the insects entirely sterile. Then, they load exactly 2 million of these radioactive sterile flies onto airplanes and drop them straight out of the sky over agricultural quarantine zones. The concept is pure biological math. These sterile flies flood the ecosystem, mate with the wild population, and cause the entire local destructive family tree to naturally collapse within a few generations, without spraying a single drop of toxic poison over our food. Meanwhile, if you cross the ocean over to Cambridgeshire in the United Kingdom, commercial poultry farms are using a totally different mechanical trick. They are installing specialized modular reactors that breed live insect larvae on site, and it turns out, chickens absolutely love it. Feeding live larvae to livestock instead of standard commercial grain pellets instantly triggers their raw evolutionary instincts. The birds spend hours scratching through the dirt to hunt for these moving treats, which completely eliminates the severe stress that usually causes them to aggressively attack and peck at each other in commercial coops. It naturally boosts their immune systems, allowing farmers to drop their reliance on antibiotics down to 0% while increasing overall farm profits. But the most shocking boundary testing is happening right now inside European healthcare facilities. A specialized biotech company called Biomond is currently cultivating clinical-grade larvae of the Lucilia sericata species, which is commonly known as the flesh fly. These insects are raised in 100% sterile, medical laboratory settings, and they are being shipped directly to major hospitals across the United Kingdom and Germany. Surgeons are placing these live maggots directly onto the open, infected wounds of human patients. It sounds like a total nightmare scenario, but the mechanical precision of these bugs is flawless. They completely ignore healthy living flesh and aggressively eat only the dead, rotting tissue, while simultaneously secreting an industrial enzyme that destroys harmful bacteria. It is the ultimate biological weapon against the terrifying rise of antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Whether it is using X-ray air forces to protect our crops, breeding live larvae to calm our livestock, or using flesh-eating maggots to clean human wounds, the entire planet is quietly moving toward a future where our most advanced technology doesn't run on silicon chips, but on the raw, unappealing power of insects. When you connect the dots across all these different systems, you finally get the answer to our ultimate question. This entire mechanical setup exists because the combo of digital automation and insect biology allows us to seamlessly lock down a zero-waste industrial cycle. It is a highly calculated loop. The larvae reach their absolute peak body mass in just 6 days, consuming an amount of food waste up to twice their own body weight every single day. They digest the municipal scraps inside the system for a total of 12 days. Then, right on the 17th day of their life cycle, just before they can transition into flying adults that completely lack a mouth parts and are totally unable to bite or spread disease, the clock runs out. The system automatically shifts them into the final processing phase. The larvae are mechanically separated from their waste, washed thoroughly through a water sieve, humanely put to sleep using carbon dioxide gas, and completely dehydrated. This delivers a massive payoff for a global agricultural market currently pushed to the brink, because over the past 2 years, volatile trade disruptions have forced livestock feed costs up by 40 to 60%, threatening our entire global supply chain. This process turns those unwanted city leftovers into an immediate high-grade protein replacement for cattle, birds, and commercial aquaculture. But the financial math goes way deeper than simple agriculture. We are talking about an actual biological mining operation. The dried bodies of these insects contain a dense volume of melanin, which is a key organic compound highly sought after by the global electronics industry. Their outer shells are packed with premium chitin, and their body fats are loaded with lauric acid, producing a stable biocide oil that can directly swap out palm oil in high-end cosmetic manufacturing. Even their digestive waste, a specialized manure known as frass, comes out heavily concentrated with natural nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It is a perfect premium chemical fertilizer that gets sold off immediately to commercial plant nurseries and agricultural growers. By converting a massive infrastructure crisis into a multi-layered industrial asset, Australia successfully hit its major environmental target of diverting 100% of organic waste from landfill sites by 2025. The city of Sydney completely avoided its catastrophic 2028 logistics wall, neutralizing a massive greenhouse threat without spending a single dollar on local land expansion. It proves that surviving the future of urban density doesn't require us to build bigger walls or dig deeper holes. It just requires us to stop fighting nature and start engineered integration.